In this video I want to take a look at GMT's game 1914 Glory's End When Eagles Fight. This game is actually a two games in one. It has the 1914 World War I Western Front scenario and the 1914 Eastern Front scenario, which is called When Eagles Fight. In this video I want to have a look at just the Western Front game, 1914 Glory's End. This game is actually a reprint of a 1994 Command Magazine game of the same title. I want to show you this one here. So this is the reprint. This is the earlier version, 1914, of the same game. This game is done by Ted Racer, who's a well-known World War I game designer, who has also done the very popular World War I strategic game, Paths of Glory. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is show you what the old version of the game looked like compared to the new version, and also give an outline of the game so you know if you're going to be interested in this sort of war game. Okay, so having a look here at the Command Magazine 1994 version so we can examine the differences in the new version. This is the old map, 1914. You can see it's very quite simple, yellow and green, and Paris is in red here. The counters are reasonably good, having a look at them. Now, the other thing about this version of the game and the new version is that I haven't been able to tell any discernible major differences between the two prints. So if you've got this version of the game, at this point I'm not sure what the differences are. This is the 1914 Glory's End game, which is partially set up. We can see that the map here is quite a lot better than the earlier edition. If you have a look at the counters, they are pretty similar, but and have two color printing. Okay, this game is a core level game, and if you're interested in the Schlieffenplan and the initial stages of World War I, where the Germans advanced through Belgium to attack Paris, you'd be interested in replaying this game as a simulation solo or with two players. Now I'd like to talk about 1914 Glory's End counters and setup. If you look here, the first number, 5, that's the attack strength, 4 is the defense strength, and 4 is the movement number. Each core, the game is core level, we know that from the infantry symbol here, has 8 steps in it. So if this core, the 7th of the 1st, takes a loss, you flip it over to the reduced strength size. If it takes another loss, you remove the counter, and then you'll have to find the 7th of the 1st additional step piece, and we know that because it's got a white dot in the corner. So you'll have to sift through the counters to put the white dot counters aside. Then you've got the next level, 3, 2, 4. If it takes another loss, you flip it again to the final side, and if it's lost again, you remove the entire core from the game. Another factor that we have to make sure we understand is the setup number. So in the corner, in the top right hand corner, we've got hex number 4114. So if we zoom out, we'll see that this hex, this piece starts in this hex here. Now I want to take a look at the general setup of 1914 Glory's End. After you put the counters on the hex numbers, you'll see something like this that you have in front of you. Also note, there's counters with numbers on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the army mobilization counters. So the counters you see on this side of the board are to be placed within their respective army between 3 hexes around the mobilization points. The players can choose how they wish to where they wish to put those counters. Another thing you'll notice is the reinforcement track, and some counters are going to come on as the game progresses as reinforcements. So the other thing we need to be aware of is the objective cities. So to win the game's won by collecting points for taking the cities. So the red circles with the white numbers are the numbers that the Allies need to hold on to, and the black circles are the objective cities for the Germans. Allies need 20 points to win, Germans need 30. Now we'd like to have a look at some of the game features of 1914 Glory's End to show you how it's a little bit unique from other hex encounter games. You're looking at roughly the historical setup where the armies were before the German invasion. One thing to note is that there aren't that many British units, as some other games have on a different scale. If you look over there, you'll see there are some British coming in on the turn record track as reinforcements, but there's less British units than you'd expect. Another thing about the game is that we need to point out is there's no zones of control. So units are able to move around each other freely without having to stop when they enter, in some games, a zone of control next to an enemy counter. That makes moves for things like cavalry, who have a high movement factor, 6 cavalry here, some German cavalry up here, able to move around enemy positions and set up rear or flanking attacks, which makes the game have a bit more of a war of movement than you'd expect in this period. The game also uses a standard lines of supply rules, which the Germans trace the line of supply off the edge of the map, and the French can trace their line of supply off their edge of the map, and you can cut lines of supply by intervening with flank and rear attacks. The other thing that is interesting about the game is that you have to move to attack positions and then assault in the following turn. So you can't move and assault in the same turn. And that's called a prepared assault. The game does give a provision for a marching assault, where you can move units individually, and as you move, then you can stop and attack with one unit versus one unit. That's called a marching attack. If you are able to get pieces around all sides, you can get an attack from multiple fronts. You can get high pluses on the combat results table, and that's called a concentric attack. The other features, there is strategic movement, so you can move 8 steps, which is about 2 pieces around the map from town to town. And there's an out of command rule, where at the beginning of your turn you roll a dice. If you roll a 6, your opponent can put 3 stacks, and you're not allowed to move those this turn because they are out of command, because of the limited command and control ability at this stage of the war. There are siege guns, so you can move siege guns up to obliterate the Belgian fortresses and otherwise as well. Another thing we have to mention is the playthrough. When I played this through the first time, I noticed that it's actually quite slow to get the Germans through the forest here, and if the Germans denude too many units from the south, a lot of the French units in this unit here can denude the German line, so weakening the German attack. Okay, lastly, of course, as the game goes on, you can build trenches right across the front, and that makes it slightly harder to attack because the units don't need to retreat on the combat results table. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this game. So if you have a look and a playthrough, I think it's one of the better games available on 1914, the opening moves of World War I. Thank you very much.